Okay, see if we can get it right this time. Mac Engel, Fort Worth Star-Telegram, Engel Podcast. Thank you very much for joining me for an episode that, if you had told me was going to be a reality several years ago, I would have said you are on crack. Because I did not think a sport that originated in the name of a vegetable would ever be a viable thing. But here we are, it's 2024, and pickleball has taken off to the point where tennis enthusiasts are sick of it and are ready to wage war against a sport that has really existed since 1965. I didn't know that. I looked that up recently, that the origins of pickleball started in Bainbridge Island, which is just basically a suburb of Seattle. Here we are in 2024, and pickleball is flourishing. And if you drive around America and see tennis courts where they used to be tennis courts and now they are pickleball courts, it's because the demand to play this game is so great that tennis courts are disappearing literally daily. To talk to me about this subject is a player who was once one of the better college tennis players in America. Her name is Anna Bright. She played at the University of California. She actually finished her degree at Berkeley and then went and got a job for a couple of months before she realized, you know what, I'm not crazy about this work thing when I can go ahead and be a professional athlete. And right now, Anna Bright is one of the best pickleball players in the world. That's right, there are a slew of professional athletes who are killing it playing pickleball. This week in Dallas is one of the biggest events in the world, pickleball events in the world. It is the Professional Pickleball Association World Championships. And Anna Bright will be there and hopes to win a title and a bunch of money. To talk to me about the growth of pickleball and whether or not it is really a sport or not, please welcome Anna Bright. But before you picked up the pickleball racket, before you even played it, what were your perceptions of the game coming from your background in tennis, Anna?
My perception was pretty negative because actually in my community here in Florida in about 2015, maybe, one of our tennis courts was taken away and they put in 2 pickleball courts, and then no one was playing pickleball. So we were upset. We went from having 2 or 3 tennis courts having 1 less. And so it was quite a hassle. And a lot of people complained actually, and the community turned it back into a tennis court within just a couple months. So that was my first exposure to pickleball. But it's crazy to think that if I had given it a try in 2015, I could have been one of the true OGs of the game. But it was very negative to start. And then the game kind of started to pick up in 2021, early 2022. And my dad had been nagging me to play. So I had no intentions to really enjoy it or anything and get good. But by then I was a little less firmly anti, I would say.
So when you go back to your origin, your original thoughts of the sport, did you think it was a sport?
No, just a silly game for unathletic people. Just kind of the stereotypical view that people have today.
So when you were playing, you obviously had a lot of success with racket sports. You were a heck of a tennis player. You played collegiately at University of California. That means you were really, really good. What prompted you to say, you know what, I'm going to give this a try? Just to try it, not to think about a career in it, but just to try it. What prompted you to just pick it up and play a game?
I was just done with tennis, kind of after college. I was good, but not good enough to go pro. And so I just kind of knew that chapter in my life was over. And my parents were playing twice a week, not fully addicted, but they were interested. And, I was home, I was bored. I didn't start working until January. I graduated in May. And so I went out with them. I gave it a try. I played against them 1 versus 2. I was beating them. That was always fun. And there was a guy at the local park who was like, oh, you're really good. You should go play at this other area with some higher level players. And once I went and played with those people who were better, that's when I really got addicted. I have a little bit of an addictive personality. Pickleball is addictive in and of itself, but you combine that with, some people with addictive personalities. I think it's it's like lighting a fire. It's like, oh boy, you're going to be playing this game a lot.
At what point were you playing pickleball? Did you recognize you weren't just good at it, you were really good at it, and there was a much, much greater ceiling to then just hitting the ball and beating your parents 1-on-2?
I honestly think it took me a few months to maybe even until like my first pro tournament to realize I was actually very good, because I was only playing with people in my area, and I was lucky enough to get into a group with a few really good professionals. And so I was losing all the time when I was practicing. But then when I went to my first pro tournament that had other people who were a little bit of a lower level than them per se, and I did really well, that's when my life changed very quickly. Is kind of when I had that realization, when I played with people outside of my little bubble who were better than me. So I was like, oh, I'm really not bad at this. I might actually be a little extra talented than kind of the typical tennis player who comes over. So I was really lucky with how everything shook out for me.
So if this hadn't worked, and I think if I read correctly, you had a job. Didn't you have just like a regular conventional job after college?
Yeah, so I was working remotely as like a project manager at a fintech company. And yeah, that's what I was doing. I only did it for like 2.5 months, actually.
How long did it take for you, Anna, to start making enough where you thought, oh, this could be pretty lucrative and I don't have to really work? I mean, I shouldn't say we have to really work, but not have a conventional job like myself or somebody else.
So how it worked for me is my first pro tournament, I did really well and I got a lot of attention. And I was a data science and business major in college. And Duper is like a big company in pickleball. They're like the universal rating system. And their CEO and founder, after finding me from pickleball, they actually recruited me to start working for them. So I was working for them after that first fintech job. And so I worked for them for about 6 or 7 months, had a really good time. So I was working in pickleball remotely and playing, training, getting better. And after about 6 months of that, I was good enough and making enough money to where it was kind of an either or at that point. And so about August or September of 2022 is when I was officially full-time pickleball.
So when you were in college at Cal as a junior, you had an idea of kind of a track, obviously, where your life was going to go professionally. And obviously you'd be doing fine in that world. Could you ever have, had someone told you as a junior or even a senior, you were going to be doing what you're doing now and one of the best in the world at it, could you have even conceived any of this?
No, I feel insanely lucky. I've always considered myself to be a really lucky person. Had someone told me then that I'd be doing what I'm doing now, I definitely would have probably laughed at them. It's definitely out of the realm of possibilities of what I thought my life would turn out being, but I'm very thankful, very lucky. Just enjoy it. I enjoy it every day.
What are your thoughts on the encroachment of pickleball into the world and of tennis?
I definitely think it's a really complicated issue. I feel like, of course, tennis is such a classic game. There's so much history, and people who play it take a lot of pride in that. Understandably so, and definitely I did, but I think pickleball is kind of like a freight train that at this point can't be stopped. And I don't really have a problem with empty, hardly used tennis courts being converted to pickleball courts. It's largely just a matter of like real estate. And because on one tennis court, you can put up to 4 pickleball courts and you could have 2 to 4 people playing tennis, or, 16 people happily playing pickleball. So it's definitely a complicated issue. And I hope that more and more pickleball facilities are opening up around the country. And I'm sure that'll continue, and dedicated pickleball facilities where tennis courts aren't being actively uprooted. But also, the people like pickleball. It's exploding. The people like it. And I feel like tennis as a whole kind of will need to undergo a revival of sorts in order to kind of, if they don't want any more of their courts to be to be converted to pickleball.
When you say a revival, and as someone who grew up, obviously, do you still play tennis, Anna?
Not at all, which is very common
Not at all.
for my
Okay.
peers. We pretty
But as
much
someone
never play.
who got their start in it and, went to Cal, I'm assuming you got some level of a scholarship assistance at Berkeley because of tennis. Is that correct?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay. So obviously tennis was really good to you. You were really good to it. And you mentioned a revival. What can the sport really do to try to enjoy not necessarily a renaissance, but a little bit of a boost in light of the fact that pickleball is surging at the level that it is? Is there anything it can do?
I feel like I'm not really in that world anymore, but more programs to get kids playing, more use of kind of active courts. Like I know growing up in the Fort Worth area, there like the high school tennis courts near my house where I would have gone to high school had I stayed, like there were often like kids programs going on there and the courts were in use. And then now I kind of drive around the high schools in my area and they have, 6 courts, 4 to 6 courts, all of them. And I just feel like they're always empty. So I feel like more youth programs get kids playing tennis, better pathways. I think that's something that Texas did really well for me. There was kind of tennis was more segregated by level, but a lot of states kind of don't have that. So you have kids who are like 8 years old, 10 years old, playing against some of the best 12-year-olds in the state in these tournaments. And it's kind of one reason my sister stopped playing tennis here in Florida was, they came here and they had to play against kids who were just way better than them. Whereas, so I think it all starts with what is happening for kids. And I think that's something that pickleball is also trying to figure out, because right now it's not really separated out by age for people under 18. It's just it's like 25 plus, 35 plus. And so now we see the tour is trying to develop youth leagues and kind of youth pathways. And so I think that that's something that both sports have to, tennis already has the groundwork, but it's something that could be improved on and that I think is going to be really important. Because tennis is a hard game to pick up as an adult. That's something that pickleball has on it. You have all these people who are addicted and loving it who have no racket sport background. With tennis, it's very difficult to get into it. Not impossible, but much, much more difficult. So,
you grew up playing sports, so I'm assuming you've watched any number of sports on television. And I've watched pickleball on television, and if I thought there was not a knock, but maybe a challenge to overcome for the sport of pickleball was how it plays on television. Do you think pickleball, in terms of its growth, has a TV problem at all in how it plays on a screen?
I definitely think pickleball in person is a much better product. The speed of the game translates a lot better in person than it does on TV. Tennis is definitely, in my opinion, a better overall TV product on average, but I do think that the best pickleball matches can be captured very well on television. I just think there's some things that still need to be figured out, and I think pickleball will continue to grow and explode as a participation sport primarily, but getting it kind of over the hump as a spectator sport and on television is probably the bigger hurdle, not a hurdle that's necessary to get over for pickleball to continue to grow at the rate it is, just as people playing it and enjoying it, but to get people to really be, tuning in. And there, a lot of that is storyline based too. I think the game, like tennis, the Grand Slam, so much history. People will never watch tennis, but they'll tune into, the semifinals and finals of those. So there's a long way to go. And it's not just the matches that are actually played. It's kind of the storytelling and getting people to tune in and be interested in kind of knowing the faces behind the pro game. So I think that's definitely an obstacle and something that the powers that be in pickleball are trying to figure out and overcome. And we have a lot of really brilliant people behind that. So I'm sure they can make it happen.
Anna, because you lived it and you were on that other side of pickleball, stupid, get out, this is ridiculous. And you kind of went through that evolution of looking down your nose at it. And now all of a sudden, I shouldn't say all of a sudden, but over some time, you're one of the best players in the world at it. Looking back on that evolution that you went through from A to B, what are the biggest misperceptions that people have about pickleball as a sport? Like, what are the ones that we just get dead wrong about it?
I think a big one is people knocking the game for being easy. We'll say, oh, it's so easy, it's stupid. But it's something being easy isn't inherently bad. Hardly anyone intelligent at least is arguing that pickleball is harder than tennis. It's actually a good thing that it's easier. It's why it's growing so fast. So I think that's a big one that people will use to kind of insult the game. But it's truly not a negative thing. It's just different. It's easier for kids to pick up. It's easier for, grandparents to pick up. It's easier for people who've never played a racket sport to pick up, and just to have the ability to compete. I feel like so many people in their adult life, and this is something I was thinking about after college when I was done with tennis, I was like, how am I going to compete? Like, there's just, so many people get into running or, things like that. Like, there's just not, like, it's hard to find ways to compete. And I think pickleball has given that to so many people. So that's one thing that I think people try to say as an insult, and it's really not. It's just a difference in perspective. I feel like another major misconception, though, it's kind of contradictory, is that it requires like no athleticism. It might not require too much to just, hit the ball around and enjoy, but the highest level of the pro game is still inherently like pretty athletic. We're doing a lot, and yeah, I think people also think that they can just be really good really fast. Like tennis players will think that they can be a pro within 3 months, or they could be better than Ben Johns or Annalie Waters in 3 to 6 months, and that is far, far, far from true. There's many active pros even who came in saying things like that, and it's far from the truth. So it is easier than tennis. It is easy. It's easy to play. It's easy to have a good time, but getting to the very top is not something that a good tennis player can manage. They can just snap their fingers, right? Like, we have people who were actively like at the very top of tennis, right? Like, we have Jeannie Bouchard playing right now. We have Sam Querrey. We have Jack Sock, and they're great players, but it's not like, they've been playing for a while now. It's not like they're winning titles left and right either.
So I've played a few times, and you can address this because I think it's a misperception that you lived, which is a singles tennis match is a workout.
Absolutely.
Like, if you play best of 3, that's a real work. I mean, you're running around, hustling, stop, start, jump, all that. That's a big calorie burn. Now you're looking at a pickleball court, which is significantly smaller and maybe a little bit more potentially stationary than tennis. And I think there are a lot of people out there who think pickleball really isn't a workout. What do you say to that?
I wouldn't inherently, like, singles tennis is like you said, a heck of a workout, and doubles pickleball is not as much of one, but it's still better than doing something else, right? Like, my parents, if they were not out playing pickleball for 3 hours a night, they would just be kind of watching TV or something. It's right. Infinitely better than doing nothing. And pickleball singles is actually is quite the workout too. I don't know if you've dabbled in that, but it's a lot shorter than a tennis match. But I would think, and a lot of my peers would think this too, that it is physically tougher for the duration that you're playing pickleball singles, as it's I don't know if you've watched it much, but it's constant stop and starts. All the movement is at 100% explosive. There's not much like massaging the ball like there is in tennis. Obviously, tennis match is longer. It's more difficult, considering the course of time. But especially men's singles, right? If they play like 5 matches in a day, it's very tough. Doubles is definitely a lot more chill, though, for sure.
So you mentioned the start and stop, and one thing I have read about as the sport has gained popularity, there's 2 parts of it. One, I think this was more of an East Coast thing, that neighborhood associations were putting in guidelines that basically you couldn't build a pickleball court, or you couldn't play it after a certain time because of the noise the ball makes against the paddle. Have you run into that at all?
Personally, no, but there is a country club in my area that I would play at sometimes, but it was always annoying because it had no lights, and it was such a nice club. And then later I realized the reason they didn't have lights was to prevent people from playing, past darkness. So that would be my only, such a nice club, beautiful. It's like, why no lights? And that's the reason why. So that's been my only exposure, honestly, to that issue. It definitely is a problem. I have no issue with the sound. I'm used to it. I like it. It's music to my ears. It makes me happy that people are having fun, but I could definitely understand that it can be a lot, for sure.
The other one was that I've read is that this particular game has led to an inordinate amount of ACL injuries. Now, maybe not in somebody your age, Anna, but for athletes, sort of the weekend warrior type like me, who plays, they're going to be a little bit more vulnerable to it. Is a pickleball player who's 40 and up, 35 and up, more susceptible to an ACL injury than they would be playing tennis, say?
I don't think a fear of that is a reason to not play. You're still out playing sports with your friends. Like I've seen stats like that. Like pickleball causes like some very large percentage increase in like orthopedic needs or something. And it's like, yeah, I'm sure it does, but these people are out and about having fun playing sports and, not just sitting around all day.
So, Anna, one thing we've seen with professional sports lately are athletes playing at an absurdly high level well into their 30s, sometimes even into their 40s. Tom Brady was an example. We're seeing NFL quarterbacks now play at a high level at 38, 39, and 40. We're seeing tennis players now excel well into their 30s, ages that we hadn't seen previously. Is pickleball, can we see an athlete play at a higher level, even beyond those standards, because the game is a little bit different and a little bit tighter? Or do you think the timelines will be similar as to those other sports?
I do think those timelines are going to be long. I feel like in football, it's kind of an anomaly that someone is playing into their 40s. Obviously, basketball, we have LeBron James, but in tennis, you're seeing more like mid 30s is common. Some higher 30s, and I do think will become pretty common in doubles pickleball to have people. We already have tons of the pros are mid 30s. There's even a few people who are in their 40s who are still very good. In singles, we're not going to see that as much. Singles is a really physical game. It's very tough on the body. Like I said, a lot of constant stopping and starting. So I don't expect to see too much of that in singles, but in doubles, I do think it'll be very common. And pickleball is unique in that there's a very lively and functioning like senior pro tour. They have their own events. They have their own team events. Some of their events are commingled with people under 50, and it's really special. And I think pickleball, I know a lot of people who are literally looking forward to turning 50 because then they don't have to play with people, younger than them anymore. Then they get to be the young person again. Like it's just a really special thing that good pickleball players literally look forward to turning 50 years old. It's very special. It's very unique, and it's honestly very cute. I just turned 25 and I was sad, but hopefully, when I hit my next quarter century, I'll be happy. I can hope for that.
I have something to look forward to 25 years from now. Last thing I wanted to ask you about was the big tournament that's coming up in Dallas. Obviously, we haven't had anything, certainly not on this level, where it's going to occupy, tons and tons of square footage, concerts, parties, festivals. It's an international tournament. It's an amateur tournament. This seems like a pretty big deal. Can you shed some more light about this for people who aren't familiar with not necessarily playing it, but attending what these big international championship events are like in pickleball?
Yeah, it's going to be amazing. It's kind of like you said, we haven't had something quite on this scale. Like I was at this tournament last year, but now they're adding, the concerts, more celebrity appearances. They're really marketing it as an international event. I think there's like 1,000 more signups than last year. So I'm really excited. People should come out. The atmosphere on center court and just around the grounds is unbelievable. And there's tons of entertainment. Pickleball tournaments, I feel like the general vision is they're trying to get them to feel more festival-like to an extent, right? It's not meant to be like a tennis tournament where, everything is quiet and there's not too much, there's things to see, but pickleball is meant to feel like lively, there's alcohol around. It's really fun. I think it's a place where pickleball as a spectator sport is really trying to separate itself from tennis. And it's a really, really fun atmosphere to be a part of. And I'm really excited to play in it. It's going to be like 9 or 10 days, I think, of matches. Yeah. So it's a lot. And this venue does a great job. Center court is beautiful. There's tons of seating. Hopefully it's full every day. Hopefully we have weather cooperates. I'm really excited. It'll be fun to play in, and it'll be fun to watch too for people who come out.
So there's one thing I've seen it and I don't remember. I know on the collegiate level here in Fort Worth, some of the tennis coaches, Big 12 tennis coaches, were on board with letting the fans in attendance cheer and make noise during points, which has always been taboo, both in golf and tennis, right?
Right.
You lived it, you played it, everybody be quiet for the serve and then the volley, and then afterwards you cheer. Well, in an effort to try to create an atmosphere, some coaches said, let them cheer the whole time. And it kind of got overruled relatively quickly. Is fan noise allowed during points during pickleball? I can't recall. Is it allowed?
I would say it is still taboo to an extent, but much less so than it is in tennis or golf, I would say. Like it's...
So as a player, I'm going to cut you off. As a player, does that noise at all distract you from a serve or a volley and during the volley?
I would say it would. It depends. If someone is like normal, like ooh, ah, like stuff like that wouldn't bother me. But if I'm like about to hit, a shot and someone just shrieks, like that would bother me. That would bother me straight up.
So do you think they should allow cheering and crowd noise the way they do at basketball games and hockey and other attended sporting events? Or do you think they should follow the tennis model and, hey, keep it quiet?
I feel like for this game as a pro, I would like it to be more quiet, but in between points is rowdy. Like in tennis, any kind of heckling is pointed out by the player to the umpires, and then the person is either escorted out or told to, really turn it down and be quiet. In pickleball, that is not really a thing. Like heckling, within reason is not a problem. Yeah. And I enjoy that. In between points, I have no problem with us separating ourselves and encouraging people to be loud. And like there are some tournaments where people have even had like those air horns or other kinds of noisemakers that are used in between points. And it's annoying, but it's fun. That's kind of the vibe that I think is good and just makes it more enjoyable for fans. In between points, I have no problem with things getting loud and rowdy.
It's an interesting evolution, and I can see both sides of it. I know as someone who's consumed a lot of it and watches a lot of it, I'm always for sports doing more to get people to be drawn to the game, especially like tennis, like racket sports. And I can understand there's a push-pull between the player and the marketer. The marketer wants to, open it up and do everything to get more people to come to the games and the events, whereas the participant and certainly the coach can sometimes be a little bit more conservative about it. And I can see there's that fine line. And it seems to me pickleball's trying to push it a little bit outside of the tennis norms, but keep it within a certain line. Is that the right read?
Yeah, I would say 100%. And it's like I said, of course, my take is going to be a little more conservative. I don't want to be like losing points because I'm distracted midpoint. But I definitely think, the best thing for the sport to grow as a spectator sport and on television is just whatever it takes to get butts in seats and to get people, tuning in. So I'm not sure what that line is, but generally I'm for pushing the envelope on the whole.
That's great. Anna, congratulations on all of your success. Best of luck in the upcoming tournament. Thank you so much for talking to me today. I really appreciate it. Good luck.
Thank you so
Thanks
much.
so much.
I appreciate it. Thanks.